Hey guys, Palsteron here, and today let's talk about my day 2 update for my Grim Pillars Spell Totem Oracle. Now, yesterday I was a little bit sleep drunk when I made the video, but I wanted to get something out real quick to inform you guys about what Grim Pillars is and how strong it is. And I was saying maybe in late game I'm still going to transition to Spark. And honestly, right now, I'm absolutely devastating the whole game. The damage is outrageous. I think this might be the best totem skill in the game. So yeah, this is getting its own guide somewhere at the end of the week, on around day 5, day 6. But right now, I want to talk about everything that I couldn't yesterday, because now I've gotten into maps. I have beaten the new boss. I've gotten to tier 15s all the way. So quite the big jump there. And just the sheer amount of damage this skill deals on totems for that low of currency is absolutely insane. And I'm going to go over everything you need to know here, because there's a lot of small details that you need to understand in order to make it feel good. So we're going to do a roundup of FAQs and talk about what I currently have and what I upgraded since yesterday. And I'm going to quickly show you the gameplay right here with some abysses on top. So tier 15, I just got into tier 15s earlier. So just to quickly show you the gameplay. So our main skill is Grim Pillars. We already talked about this yesterday, but it's a cold skill, and it has a explosion up front, and then it leaves behind ice crystals. And these ice crystals can explode if you somehow explode them. And you do that with Entangle. Entangle is just a good AoE skill, in my opinion, even better than Thunderstorm. A lot of people like Thunderstorm. You can try that out if you want to as well. With Branching Fissures, you can see right here, you can put it down all over the screen and it will proc everywhere, and it also stays down. And the idea is that ice crystals, if you hover over them, you can see that on the bottom, skills which consume freeze will instantly shatter ice crystals. That's all you have to know. And then you go here and you look at Entangle, Biting Frost. Supported skills cannot cause freeze buildup, yada, yada, yada. Supported skills consume freeze on enemies. That counts towards ice crystals. So what it does is, after your totems put down the ice crystals, this will consume it, and you will see it on single target. Now, this is the way you map. You put down your totems, and then you entangle. It is kind of a 2-button playstyle. You can also just put down the totems. I'll quickly show you how that looks. The only problem is that sometimes the icicles will stay on the ground. Obviously, when stuff like Abyss happens, you can press buttons anyways, but you can just see how clean this clear is, and how absolutely absurd even the rare damage is. So yeah, that's actually pretty nice. And that's all there really is to it. Now, in single target, you will also put down Frost Bomb and Mana Tempest and LE Weak. I'll show you that as well, just so you can deal a lot of damage here. Put down the Mana Tempest, and it just gives me a big buff. And yeah, other than that, I mean, you can see it is pretty crazy. Now, my mana will go down, and then sometimes I will just press the Mana Flask like 2 or 3 times, and we're back up to full. And there you go. I'm also using efficiency on my main skill right now, so that has made it a lot better. And I have a distill on my amulet that helps as well. I'll quickly show you the boss. All right, so like I said, on the boss, you have Frost Bump that you put down. You have the Mana Tempest. Currently, I have 5 totems. So boom, LE Weak with Curse Ground you can put down before, and then you just spam Entangles so the crystals explode. That is all there is to it. Now, I will be talking about the snapshots in a second and talk about how you can transition into totems, what's important at which step. But if you want to just open it up, you can also do that in my doc. I will link it down below in the description. But before that, just quickly talking about what I currently have. I have Grim Pillars with Urgent Totems 3, Cold Mastery, Magnified Area, and Efficiency. The most important support is Urgent Totems 3 and Magnified Area. I want to clarify something, because I yesterday said Astral Projector, and like I said, I just threw it together real quickly. Apparently, totems just target outwards even without having Astral Projector, so it's just a dead link, so you don't even need it. I'm not sure if that's getting bug fixed ever, but if it is, we lose like, I don't know, 10% damage from removing Cold Mastery. But that is about that. Cold Mastery Efficiency 2 is very important, actually probably the next best one, because totems can get quite expensive. More on that later, how you can fix your mana, etc. Entangle with Branching Fissures, just to make it a little bit nicer and smoother, and for it to hit more stuff. Biting Frost to consume the ice shards. Magnified Area is still on 1 for some reason. I gotta remember that. That should be 2. And Rapid Casting should also be 3. See, I haven't even upgraded everything yet. LE Weak, only have a 5 link here, unfortunately, but everywhere where you can, put Efficiency 2 in. It's just too good. Curse Ground, Heightened Curse, Ritualistic Curse. I'll hover over everything you need to know, but there's not much else to say. I guess one thing with Mana Tempest, I really like advancing Storm with it because you don't want to stand in it too long, but if you put that in, it will move away from you anyways, and then you still have the Linger, which makes it so it's up for 4 seconds even after you stepped out of it. As for my gear, I finally upgraded from a Life Sprig. I bought this one from the market, but you can also craft it yourself if you know how to with essences. There's an essence for +2 to level of all spell skills. Do note that this skill is cold, so if you get a +5 or a +4 cold, that's also very strong. Just make sure that you know that then your spell totems loses the extra level. For example, I could, without this +3 right now, not put down my 5th totem because there's breakpoints to it, as I already alluded to. At level 14, you get 2 max. At level 23, you get 3 max. And those then get doubled with Ancestral Bond. You know the drill. But either way, so my wand's very strong here. The best rune would be a +1, which I'll probably have by tomorrow, at least hopefully. I rune forged everything I can just to get a little bit of extra ward and get a little bit extra life hit and not get one shot. Other than that, all upgraded is as much life as possible, as much resistance as possible. At this point, I am almost even capped on chaos, so I'm doing pretty well for myself. On rings, the most important thing is to get as much cast speed as possible. If you could get pearl rings, that would be even better, but it is what it is. For my implicit here, I did use efficient casting. It is quite inexpensive as well. If you don't know how to anoint this patch, for example, the efficient casting right here, you have to go to the Withered Willow, and then he will give you a quest to kill 5 map bosses while in Delirium. After that, as much movement speed as possible on these boots. I actually crafted these myself because I found them with movement speed and chaos res, and then, yeah, I didn't get super lucky, but it's good enough. Belt, life, mana. You can see that I have mana almost everywhere. These gloves are missing life and mana, so they're not very strong. But other than that, my body armor is also pretty bad. But as you can see right here, I have Spirit here, I have Spirit on my amulet, and right now I have 379 Spirit, which is enough for 5 totems. Now later on, yes, I do want to anoint the efficient inscriptions, then I could put down 6 totems. The problem is it is quite expensive right now with a isolation, I think, going for over 100 exalts. This is how my passive tree looks right now. We'll talk about the weapon set and everything a little bit later. I'm currently pathing to this last jewel socket. I haven't even bought this jewel socket yet that I slotted in, but you can see right here, instead of the fizz nodes, I'm taking cold nodes and just general spell damage nodes. Very important, the movement speed here makes the build feel a lot better. As always, the earlier you can get it, the better, unless you feel like you have little damage. Then obviously don't. We take these LE clusters because they're just very efficient, and then we go all the way over and take both Endless, Blizzard, and Glaciation. Or Glaciation or whatever. Int here helps a lot with attributes, which are quite rough, and then I take a lot of these crit nodes. Now, as for crit nodes, you do not want to take them until you get Inevitable Crit. If you don't know how this works, it basically rerolls your crit over and over until you hit, but whenever it has to reroll, it gives you less crit damage. So it makes it so you always crit, but on average with less crit damage. It comes out to around 35 to 42% more damage. Now, biggest question I'm getting is how to fix mana. And this one, you have to stay with me for a second. First up, get flat mana everywhere. That's the obvious part, but I understand that that's not that easy. Now, I would tell you to use your exalts that you find during campaign to buy some items. And some people do it, some people don't. If you do, you will never have problems in this game. But okay, let's move on. Mana remnants. Now, mana remnants are quite strong and they get procced quite frequently. You will notice that whenever they're proccing, your mana will fill up to full all of a sudden, but it does take 30 spirit. So for example, let's say you just started playing totems and you have 180 spirit. Well, you can use 2 for totem, but you don't have enough for the third anyways, so you might as well throw on a mana remnants for 30. If that is the case, yes, but if it stifles one of your totems, then don't use it. Then we have mana efficiency, and the biggest one here is use efficiency support as soon as you can, even in your 4 link, in your 5 link, whatever you can get. Magnified Area 2 and Cult Mastery are not that important, and as we said, Astral Projection is actually not necessary, so get that ASAP. It makes a big difference. Yeah, so that's in there. Manipulate your spell level. Now, stay with me. Grim Pillars, you can level as much as you want. The mana or the ward cost does not matter because, or mana cost, because spell totems don't let you cost anything. It is completely separate. The mana that the spell totem costs depends on the level of the spell totem itself. Doesn't have anything to do with this. So what that means is you can manipulate it. However, if you leave it lower level, it might die. That's a little bit of an issue, and it also gains resistances with levels. Plus, at level 23, right here, you can see I have the 3 totem limit. If I go 1 down, so for example, Actually, I can't even show that right now, but if I went to 22, I would only have 2. So there's that. But you can see I could get this to level 20, and I currently only have it on 18. The biggest reason why your mana might feel rough, though, is Entangle. You might not understand how it works with Biting Frost, and I'll explain to you real quickly. You do not want to level this gem up ever, because the damage of it does not matter. It's just there to be a ground effect that procs ice crystals, and it does that regardless of how much damage it deals. So leveling it up just makes your mana a lot worse. If this was on level 20, I would have a cost here of approximately 200 mana per cost, and you want to spam it quite a bit because it makes it less awkward to move, because you can actually control where the ice crystals are and you don't move into them all the time. And Biting Frost 2, there it is. That is all you have to know. The same goes for Elemental Weakness and Frost Bomb. Once they're at level 18, they can hit all enemies in the game. They have a cutoff point where you have to level them, otherwise you could just leave them at level 1, but you need to get them to level 18 with all your gem levels combined, and after that you don't need to anymore. So I'm a little bit over that, whatever. If your mana's fine, you can keep leveling them up because they do give you some extra buffs, especially Elemental Weakness, but other than that, not really necessary. As for the weapon swap, which is the most confusing thing in Period 2, all you have to know is set 1 will be totems, set 2, everything else. Set 1 is the red one. You will see all the totem nodes are right here. Totems, totems, totems. So they snapshot whenever I pop down a totem. And you can see that right here as well. If I go in here, used with weapon set only 1. You have to untick this and also make sure that this is unticked because sometimes it can be bugged. And all the other skills will be on weapon set 2. Every single one. And do untick the 1. You only want it to work on weapon set 2. This one was actually just something I swapped out earlier. Mana Remnant is not in here. Voila. And do make sure that you have these locked to both weapon sets because you don't need to swap your weapon whatsoever. In fact, you don't want to, because if you have a problem where you sometimes unsummon totems and you don't know why, that's because you have different amounts of spirit on your weapon offhand and your main hand. They will unsummon. So all you have to do is right click up here. So you can see right now there's nothing and there has to be a shadow back there and back there. You have to do it on both sides. Then you know it works. Now let's talk about some early game tips. Like I said, all the snapshots that we'll talk about are here down below and you can look at them. Now, there's no notes in here or anything like that, but you can see the passive tree and you see everything that is changing with the gear. Now, you need to be able to at least put down 2 totems and you need to be able to have a 4 link. Spell Totem, Grim Pillar, Magnified Area, Urgent Totems is where you respec. Before that, you can also go for Bone Cage Totems or you can just go plants, whatever you want. You will need enough spirit to do that. And if you're using your currency efficiently on the trading market, you will always be ahead. For example, I got this +3 life sprig very early. Just make sure that you have one that doesn't have too high level requirement because the mana drain on top determines that. But other than that, any +2 or higher to spell skills with other mods is also really strong. Now, you want to use all these other skills as well. I don't even have any supports for them right now, but they will increase your single target damage by quite a bit. And make sure that you have a Purity offhand. So if you have Purity Scepters, you can put in free supports. For example, here I put in Vitality 1 and Clarity 1 for some regen and some mana regen. So that is only possible on the Purity Scepters. Don't ask why. It is what it is. And on the passive tree, you will see that I did stuff a little bit different than I had initially planned, which is instead of going to the right side first, I actually went down first just because of how good the placement speed felt. And if you're kind of frustrated about this weird, like sometimes I have weapon points here or there, they all have a reason. You can follow them or not, but it's a little bit chaotic. You have to think about going through the campaign. Now you get 2 weapon set passives here, 2 there, and you have to kind of make do with it. And it's just a little bit awkward. So there is definitely something to the madness here. Now you'll not see that much changing up to level 60, but at some point you will see a drastic change. The first big one actually comes in the form of me going for Pearl Rings. So the most important thing on rings is cast speed. You can get up to 10% cast speed in the implicit and up to 24% cast speed in a suffix. That is crazy. You will not even know that this is the same build. Once you get those, big. Now, if you can get some res on top, some dexterity, not dexterity, but just attributes in general on top, great. Otherwise, you have to start looking for spirit to get more and more totems. But you can see, even at level 70, I still had just my life sprig, and I was absolutely demolishing everything, and the cast speed helped a lot. Get as much movement speed as you possibly can as early as possible. At this point, 30% movement speed boots are really cheap, so you can get them extremely early. Yeah, jewels, I don't even have anything at this point. And then we're slowly graduating into better and better gear. Here I have, for the first time, a good wand. And yeah, I actually have cap resistance. But other than that, all that really happens is I added Mana Tempest because it's just so strong. And early on, the mana was a little bit wonky. And I just added supports after supports. So yeah, use Purity Scepter, cast speed on rings as soon as possible. And then quality priority is a little bit awkward. You definitely want the quality on Grim Pillars as soon as possible. It gives you 2 extra pillars. The Spell Totem one right here is currently bugged. Apparently, this does not exist because it's just like a weird line that slipped in there, and it also doesn't work. But I'm a little bit of a chicken right now, and I'm not using quality right here, but I will be testing it out. You can definitely put quality in here. I don't think it's going to break anything. Entangle quality is super strong because it gives you an extra 20% chance to create an additional fissure. Extremely good. So that one is probably priority right after Grim. And then after that, probably Mana Tempest. Mana Tempest gives you extra linger. In fact, this might even be second, but these 3, Mana Tempest, Entangle, and first Grim Pillars, and then the other ones are pretty whatever. As for my Atlas progression, I've been going through this first zone where we just have a ton of bosses, and here is where I did the boss for the first time, and now I have to do him over and over again to unlock all my passive points. This is how it looks like this patch, and I have, what do I have, like 100 points or so, 124 points, and at the end I'll have all of them. I want to tell you right now that this is a little bit convoluted at times. If you're not somebody who's very attentive, let's put it that way, you really want to pay attention and you want to fully embrace the role play here to know what's going on and always read stuff on the side. But yeah, that's about all I got for today. I will be doing more updates over the next few days, and you can also always hit me up on twitch.tv/Palsteron. I will be playing the build if you want to see how it comes along. And the doc will be updated with extra snapshots whenever necessary, and towards the end of the week, I will be making a full max roll guide. But yeah, this was the best League start, bar none, that I've ever had. It's an absolute pleasure to play. It is ridiculous, and it's nowhere near perfected. I'm sure there's like massive mistakes somewhere where we have to test a little bit more, but I will be figuring it out and putting out update videos. And with that being said, since I still don't have a slogan, see you next time.